Of course, there's much more to application development than simply getting data in and out of the database. So from this point forward in the course, we're going to focus on the Ottoman ODM, because why reinvent the plumbing? Ottoman is an object document mapper for Couchbase. It allows you to work directly with JavaScript objects that you define in your code to correspond to the JSON documents that you're supporting for your application. It allows you to rapidly prototype the data model of your application and the relationships within this overall model. The relationships are definable either by document embedding or document reference. You'll understand the significance of this difference if you've taken our Intro to Data Modeling in JSON course. Each model object that you define has support for either predefined or custom data types, meaning relations to other models. They also support validation logic for your attributes, multiple different indexing strategies per model should you choose to implement them. They will auto-generate lookup methods for you with related indices, as we'll see. There's also support for generic finds if you need to support ad hoc querying through your model. To install Ottoman, well, that's easy. npm install Ottoman. More details available out at Ottoman.js.com. So it all begins with the underlying models. So how do you define a model in Ottoman? Of course, a model is a definition of a particular object type that you need to support within your application. So you would require the Ottoman module, and then the model method, or operation as you prefer, of the Ottoman module allows you to define a specific type. In this case, we're defining a customer type. A type is comprised of n number of attributes, of course, nested in whatever relations, although nesting might come in the form of relationships, as we'll see. And we see here that we have support for string, boolean, integer, date, number, as you would expect, but also take a look at that country attribute, where it's a reference to some other model we'll be seeing more of in this course, the country model. Now notice here, it's just stated, country, country. That, as we'll learn later, means that the country data would be embedded within this document. It would be a relationship by embedding. We'll see relationships by reference in a moment. Once defined, the model gets exported for use within your application. Now you'll also be assigning an ID attribute to your model. That ID, in combination with the document type, comprises the document ID in the database. But you'll also see shortly how the ID also creates an automatic lookup method, getById. In the document itself, you'll see that the type is embedded in the underlying document in an underscore type attribute. And then the ID that you've assigned, in this case username, is combined with the type to create the document name. So we see here the document name would be customer pipe AHA777 because the ID for customer models was defined as the username. There's more that you can do with the models, as you might expect. You can assign default values, whether it's string, boolean, or any other type. You can assign both literal defaults as well as programmatic defaults. You could reference a standard JavaScript function like dateNow. You could also create custom functions to return some particular value to be assigned to a given attribute. Attributes can also have read-only behavior assigned to them, which would be a good pattern to follow for attributes like custID, which have also been set as the ID for the model. Last, as we see here, a relationship can be defined either by embedding, as we saw in the prior slide, or it can be defined as a reference to another document, as we see with the syntax here. We'll be looking at both variations in lessons ahead, so this is just a first look. Before you can do anything, as you might imagine, you need to know where the data is going to go. We've already looked at how to create your cluster reference and how to open a bucket, but notice here the bucket is being opened and then assigned to the bucket property of the Ottoman module. This needs to be done before the code executes to create a model, because the model is not simply defining a structure within your code, it's also setting up indices for you on the back end, and so it needs to know where to create those indices. So always assign the bucket before you define the models. In the lab ahead, you're going to walk through the process of building out a couple of Ottoman models, and then you're going to use them with a data import script to re-import the data into a new instance of our Customer 360 bucket. Because as you saw in the slides, there are particular properties that the Ottoman models rely on to define the documents, and so we'll re-import the data so that it's structured in the manner Ottoman expects. When you get done with that, come on back. There's clearly a lot more to look at when it comes to working with object document mapping in Couchbase.